What's going on today, guys? This is Justin with The Digital Life, and today I'm really excited. I'm going to give you guys my opinion on if you should buy the iPhone 13 and upgrade or whatever you're going to do in under 5 minutes. The phones that we're going to look at today are 12 Pro and 13 Pro. And so to start off with, guys, we are looking at a 6.1-inch display for both devices. That is standard. The biggest difference now is going to be that the 13 Pro is actually going to be a little bit fatter. So if you guys, you can also compare these phones on apple.com/compare, but the height is identical, 5.78 inches. The width is 2.82 inches, and that is identical to both devices. The depth is going to be 0.30 inches on the 13 Pro and then 0.29 inches on the 12 Pro. So we can see that the 13 Pro is going to be a little bit fatter, but from the numbers here, I would say that that's not going to be noticeable. So day-to-day use is going to be the same. Here's where it really matters though, guys, is that when you're holding the phone in your hand for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever you do, a lot of people do social media, who cares? You do you. The 13 Pro is going to come in at 7.19 ounces, which is 204 grams, and the 12 Pro is going to be 6.66 ounces, 189 grams. So the next physical difference is going to be in the depth. We already covered that. So for the next biggest thing, guys, the phones basically are going to be, when they're in your hand, are going to feel almost identical. There's different colors, but I mean, as far as physical appearance and everything goes, almost identical. The next thing we're going to cover though, guys, is going to be the fact that the screens are now different. The 13 Pro is going to have a ProMotion up to 120 hertz refresh rate. Now this is a game changer. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't really matter, whatever it is. I think that's bogus, because for me personally, 120 refresh rate is a reason to buy a phone. So that means your social media, your videos, your gaming, your internet, every single thing you do on the phone from literally out of the box is going to be different. So it's going to be a smoother experience, and it's just going to look good. If you go into a phone store, you'll probably see like the OnePlus phones and some other Android phones that already have this on them. And to be frank, it looks really good. And then people with iPhones were like, why is the technology so far behind? Now it's not behind anymore. So the 120 refresh rate, I would say, is a reason number one to buy the iPhone 13 Pro. To spend the extra money, I'm not sure what phone you're on as you're watching this, but that's a big deal. So guys, screens are going to be somewhat similar, but I think a refresh rate is huge. We're going to move on next to camera. So camera, they're both going to have a 12 megapixel Pro camera system, but the 13 Pro has kind of a big advantage. It has something called a cinematic mode. In cinematic mode, what it's going to be is it's going to focus on two different things at the same time, and then it's going to blur the background, which is going to create more of a Hollywood look. So the camera is also going to be 6 times optical zoom on the 13 Pro versus the 12 Pro. But they're both going to have good cameras. However, the 13 Pro is going to have significantly better zoom. That's a big deal. So next, after camera, guys, is going to be one of my favorite things, which is battery. So the phone is heavier, which tells us that it has a bigger battery. So now the 13 Pro is going to get you 22 hours of video playback, whereas the 12 Pro is 17 hours. So if you did the math there, that was about 5 extra hours of video playback. I would say that that is a big deal. So a lot of people are on their phones all day, phone calls, social media, Instagram, whatever it's going to be. Having extra battery, bigger battery, excuse me, but heavier phone, that's a trade-off you're going to have to think about, because we're all carrying our phones all day. So are you okay with a little bit heavier phone to justify that battery? That's up to you. I think that's a big deal, because for me personally, I like to not be always glued to the wall. And I feel like with my 12 Pro, especially when I'm using the GPS or something that's super battery consuming, it just kind of gets old. So from there, guys, that's basically the biggest difference is the 12 and the 13 Pro versions. Both are still compatible with MagSafe, I will point that out. So we're looking at brighter screen, refresh rate, and cameras and battery. I would say if you had to take all of that away, I would say you're looking at battery, refresh rate, and there you go. Battery and refresh rate, I would say, are a big deal. The brightness, I'm not sure that's really a reason to buy the phone. Overall, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is The Digital Life, and this is if you should buy the iPhone 13 in 5 minutes.